Woolery? Here. Zink is absent. Geisler?
Here. Okay. The first item on general business is public comment. If anybody here is wanting to make a comment on any project that is not on the agenda, please come forward. I don't see anybody, so I'll close public comment. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes for the Monday, March 15th, 2010 Single Family Design Board.
So moved.
Seconded?
Second.
Seconded. Any comments?
I got to chime in. Sure. I can find it. On item, on page 9, on item 5, the 6th comment, we study the location of the front wall and appropriate landscaping to not promote parking instead of to prohibit parking. I was curious as to what's wrong with prohibiting. It's not that we're prohibiting parking, the word not promote bothers me. The parking in the required front yard is not permitted by ordinance, so it's not a matter that we're not promoting it.
Yeah.
We're recognizing that it can't be done. I think that front yard, I think it would say something like, restudy the location of the front wall and appropriate landscaping, recognizing that parking is not permitted in the required front yard.
Okay. You were actually the maker of that motion, so I'm sure you have no problem with that. And the second was Aaron, but Aaron's not here, but I think that seems appropriate.
That's all I have.
As a nod of heads, it looks good. Any other comments on the minutes? Hearing no more comments, I'd like to adopt those minutes with a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. So we'd like to go to consent calendar for March 22nd.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. For consent last week, March 22nd, we had item A, 1002 Coyote Road, got final approval as submitted of the landscaping. Item B, 197 Loma Media Road, was postponed 1 week. Item C, 112 Calle Bello, got a preliminary approval as submitted. Item D, 1304 Portezuelo Avenue, got final approval with conditions. Item E, 913 Isleta Avenue, got final approval as noted on the plans. And the railing detail was to return to staff, and they did come back with a very nice wrought iron detail.
Good. Good.
Okay.
And consent last week was reviewed by Bill Mahan and Denise Woolery.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve
So moved.
the agenda? Seconded?
Second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. So now the March 29th consent calendar.
Okay, for today, March 29th, on consent, we had item A, 860 West Mountain Drive, got final approval as submitted of the landscaping. Item B, 356 El Cielito Road, got preliminary approval with condition. Item C, 197 Loma Media Road, got a final approval with condition of the review after final that they were requesting. And item D, 557 Arroyo Avenue, got final approval with condition. And consent today was reviewed by Bill Mahan and Denise Woolery.
Okay. Any comments regarding those? A motion to approve by Denise. Second by Bernie. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Okay, the motion carries. We'll move on to announcements. I know Bernie wanted to have a statement for that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I just want to let the public know that some people during the last few years went to those visioning processes and sort of leading to the new plan Santa Barbara, and now's another chance for people to get involved one more time, and they can go to the website. It's called www.uplansb.org. And in April, on the 28th, 29th, and May 6th, there's going to be public hearings before the Planning Commission. So I don't want to take too much time right now, but all this information is available online, and I guess they can call anybody at the Planning Department for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Staff, any announcements?
Only that Paul Zink and Aaron Carroll will be absent today.
Changes to the agenda? Nothing.
Nope.
Okay, great. The next item will be subcommittee reports. I'm not sure if we have any subcommittees at this point, so we'll move forward with that. And we'll move into item 1 on the agenda. So that's 1517 Cliff Drive. It's a proposal for a new 750 square foot detached garage with a 500 square foot second-story accessory space above. An existing 350 square foot detached car part will be demolished. The 12,197 square foot lot in the coastal zone is developed with a 1,855 square foot one-story single-family residence. The proposed total of 3,105 square feet is 77% of the maximum floor to lot area ratio. The staff hearing officer approval of a modification is requested to allow the proposed garage to exceed 500 square feet. And I see our applicant is ready.
No, we're going to read the minutes first.
Well, I want to. Okay.
These are the minutes from last week. Relocate the deck 15 feet away from the property line. That's number 1. Number 2 is study reducing the scale of the building and lowering the garage height. And number 3 is restudy the architecture to be compatible with the existing house.
So those are the comments from the previous meeting.
Mm-hmm.
If you could introduce yourself to.
Good afternoon. My name is Tom Oxner. I'm project architect.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good to be here.
And if you could just go through the project and address the comments and show us what you've done since the last meeting.
Okay. The 3 comments, I'll go through the site plan and work through the elevations. What we did was we took the ground level portion of the garage and pulled it away from the property line just enough so that we could take the second floor and shift it further and set it on some columns, which create sort of a portico from the driveway into the backyard. I've done a better job in representing the existing landscaping around here, and it shows up in the elevations to get you more comfortable with the amount of screening that exists out there. We further developed the facade to work with the whole existing facade of the residence that we will get into here next. I'm going to move to the elevations. This is a west elevation site section. This shows the existing residence and its style. Basically what we did was we took the second floor and we shifted the whole thing 5 feet over and created a door here which is similar to the existing door that leads to the front yard, and now this would essentially lead to the backyard. The area between the garage and the house is, as you see, and we've got a gate there which further screens any service type uses that might exist there. We took the building and dropped the building down to give the garage a 9/6 plate. We took the window here and reduced it to 2 bays to bring the scale of the building down. Took the deck and pulled it over so it's 15 feet from the property line, and then took the stairs, and instead of having the stairs climbing up the south facade, pull the stairs around the sides so that you really do the predominance of the climbing and the entrance to the deck further away from the property line. And the incorporation of this shed roof here should project a softer massing to the neighbor to the south. There's an existing ficus tree here, and there's some vegetation which shows up in this west elevation. So there is screening through here, and I've got an aerial photo of the site which really shows how the site is very well screened. This is fairly dense, this is really dense, and this is 30-foot tall bamboo, and the owner is looking to really maintain the ficus tree and accent the existing landscaping on that south side to create privacy.
Is that a palm tree right here?
That is a palm tree. That palm tree will be moved.
Okay.
Yes.
Anything else for your presentation?
Let's see here. So the east elevation, this shows the portico coming right through. This is the cantilevered portion as the mass was pushed up to the north, and the existing residents for maintaining distance between structures. And we've studied the view lines of the main house, and we can live with the siting of this structure. The existing house is only 3 feet. The proposed ridge line is only 3 feet above the existing roof line in dropping it down, so we feel that the scale has been greatly improved. I think that'll do it.
Okay, thank you. Is there any staff comments on this project?
This project's requesting a zoning modification to have a 750 square foot garage rather than the maximum 500 square feet. So we'll be looking for some comments specifically on that request.
Okay. At this point, I'd like to open up public comment. If there's any public comment on this project, please come forward. Speaker is John Cooley. Cooley?
We're the neighbors.
If you could sit down, you have to be on microphone.
Oh, you have to be recorded.
And just, if you could state your name as well.
I'm John Cooley,
Okay?
and we are the neighbors on the west. We have a single-story home there, and our comments really, I think, are pretty positive. We're impressed by your process, and we're, I think, pretty happy with what you've done this time around. One clarification, though, you talked about bamboo, and that really comes down only partway, so that this structure will be looking over our backyard. So we've appreciated the things you've done with height. And one of the, as a single-story house, we kind of take our views where we can get them. And one of the views is going to be, sort of across the end of this structure, which is being put in. So we also appreciate the fact that that deck is down lower than the two-story part and so forth. And we realize that we're going to have to live with a two-story building next door, but we've appreciated what you've done with the height. But the bamboo actually goes down roughly, let's see, it goes past the house, your house. It kind of comes to ours.
Looks like it's about there.
Yeah, it ends about there. So our yard is here, and it's got currently a kind of a low area, so this will be looking down. But it's a nice-looking building. So
Okay.
I think that's the essence of
All
our
right.
comment.
Thank you for your comments.
Thanks.
Any other public comment? Okay, at this point, I'll close public comment, and I'll look towards the board for questions.
Mr. Chair, I have one question.
Yes, sir.
I don't know because we don't see this house from another direction, the existing house, and I don't know what the slope of that roof is. But I was curious as to, I guess my question to the applicant is, would he consider a 3 to 12 slope on this rather than 4 to 12 to lower that a little bit more? That's my question.
Okay.
You can think about that.
Well, here's a photo.
Okay.
And to answer your question, there's both 3 and 12 and 4 and 12.
Okay. Okay. So 3 to 12 would be compatible with the existing house.
3 and 12, yes, could be compatible with the existing house.
Okay. Any additional questions?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
This is a question for Tony, actually. Isn't there a required open yard space? And if so, are we within that guideline? Is it big enough? Is my question.
1,250 square feet.
Right.
So it would technically be okay?
I think he showed it on the site plan, the 1,250 square feet with a minimum 20-foot dimension.
Yes, it's shown, and we're in excess of that, yes.
Okay. Denise?
Mr. Chair, what is the possibility of extending the bamboo line to the end of the lot?
Well, the bamboo actually extends. It's thicker, but what we need to do is to narrow it so that we have the backup.
The backup.
Right. So we're actually proposing to narrow it slightly, and it does straddle the property line. So we'd be taking it back to within about almost a foot of the property line.
So you do intend to maintain it along that
Absolutely.
there, and it'll just be, it won't be a thicker barrier, but it will remain.
That grows incredibly quick. It's 30 feet tall right now.
Oh,
and
okay, I guess I was going by the fact that the gentleman who made a comment, who it is, he said that it's, beg your pardon.
This shows it.
Sorry, he mentioned that it stopped at that jog in the driveway. Is that correct, or does it keep on going? I'm a little...
Currently, does the bamboo stop, or is there
It drops. It drops in height. There's a shot of it.
Oh, I see right here.
See that? Yeah.
Okay, so it gets cut down at that point. It actually...
Don't let him talk from this seat.
If you need to talk, I need to reopen up public comment if you come up. Just you have to be on microphone, that's why.
Explain this.
Sure. To clarify the bamboo, it does end there, and there's some other sorts of shrubbery that grow on from.
So that's where.
Yeah, this is not bamboo in here. Well, there may be a little bit of a shorter type, but that bamboo serves a nice purpose, which is it shields our garage, which is a two-story garage, from their house. So it's really nice where it is. Beyond that, it starts to cut into what view we've got, so we wouldn't be interested in extending it further anyway. We might, possibly this stuff that's here, which is podocarpus, and mostly, that might come up and shield to some extent. So we're thinking of that. And all of this stuff is on our lot, so we kind of, in a sense, have control of its height, I think.
All right. Thank you. And I'll close public comment again. Additional questions?
Mr. Chair?
Yes?
Just one more question from the applicant, please. So on this 1,250 square foot open space, is that landscaped?
Yes, it's landscaped.
Okay.
There's a lawn in the middle, and
It's got, okay, okay, thank you.
Okay. I have one question. This area where we were just discussing this bamboo, or where the bamboo isn't, I guess, is there a proposal to put any fencing, or it's just going to be left the way it currently is? It sounds like we're removing some things.
Well, there's the shot of it. I don't know that there's been any discussion on a fence along there. The vegetation is very thick.
Is this a chain link fence here, or what is?
That's a string.
It's a string.
Yes.
Okay.
It was just surveyed.
So that's the property line,
There
probably?
could be a fence potentially. I don't know that that's a part of this
Can you
application.
locate those trees we're planting?
Is that over?
Yeah.
Here?
That tree's.
Okay, so the significant part of this landscaping is on your neighbor's property, it looks like,
Except right here. This is the portion that is.
which is up that
Exactly.
further up that way.
Yes.
Okay.
How high is the string?
That string is. There's a shot of the string. There, you can see that.
6 feet ish.
7 feet, maybe.
Yeah.
Various
Some
spots.
spots. Okay, so this is 8-9 feet of vegetation. All right, thank you. If we're done with questions, comments to the applicant? Gary, see you reaching.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to make some comments. I appreciate the moving the building closer and giving that 15-foot space for the deck. But one of the comments I want to make is that let's just get it at, they are requesting a modification for an oversized garage. It's a pretty large structure in comparison to the house, and some of the unusual things, other than me not putting the microphone on, is the plate height of the garage is 9 feet. And it's 10'6" to the finished floor, and then the accessory structure is also 9 feet tall. And as a building that is getting a modification, those are some pretty tall heights. So I really wouldn't be in favor of that. I would be more in favor of having a standard plate height of 8 feet for the garage, and perhaps a standard plate height of 8 feet for the accessory structure on top. And just given those mitigation, it drops it down substantially. So that would be something I'd be in favor to look. But the quality of the architecture and dropping the Mirador window, reducing the size of that was all positive moves for the house. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Any additional comments?
Chair.
Yes, sir.
I agree with that. I think that to be appropriate, to be compatible with the neighborhood, we've got to make sure that this building is brought down in height, and plate heights will we'll take 2 feet out. If you do 8 feet here, that's 9 feet, so you'd get 18 inches here and another foot there. That's and then if we do the 3 to 12 slope, I think we've got we've got a building that is compatible. I know he wants a higher garage here, and I wonder if we wouldn't accept maybe like a 9.6 here to give.
That's what it is. Well, there's a 9'6" ceiling right now, and we're hoping to get not only a little arch to it, but also enough room to get an SUV with an overhead door and track, and you can't do that in 8 feet.
But what you were saying is 8 foot plate here, and I'm suggesting maybe 8.6 plate there, but 8 foot up here, and 3 to 12.
Okay.
Anyway, I agree. The architecture is greatly improved, and I think that if we can bring the scale of this down, then we can find reasons to recommend the modification for the larger garage.
Okay. Any comments, Denise? Landscape.
I agree with everything you said.
Okay. Bernie? Okay. So I think we're at a point where we can form a motion, which is some comments for the modification officer, whether the board will approve this. And based on the comments that I've already heard, it sounds like maybe we have to have a discussion. If you're willing to bring the building down, we probably could have positive comments.
Yes. The intent is, just one last appeal for the size, and I can certainly understand bringing the second floor plate down to 9 feet. I'm hoping to get a reasonable height at the bay, but that's easier. The garage, I'd really like to get a 9-foot ceiling in there to accommodate SUVs and a subtle arch, and the tracks that are required for those. If we could, I could bring the second floor down from a 9-foot to an 8-foot, and I could knock 6 inches out of the lower floor if that would be acceptable.
And would you be accepting of a 3-pitch at the gable as well?
If you think that would look better, I would do it. Yes.
The 3-pitch, if we think it's better.
You do. Okay.
Okay. So what I understand is if we go to an 8-foot plate on the second floor, 9-foot plate in the garage area, and reduce the roof pitch down to a 3, which the applicant said he's willing to do, would the board be willing to accept those issues and pass along positive comments to our modification officer?
I'll make such a motion, and with the comments to the staff hearing officer that we find that the reduction in scale and the improvement in the architecture encourage us to recommend approval of modification of the larger garage.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Comments? Okay. So we'll take a vote. All those in favor of the motion? Aye. All those opposed? The ayes have it, so the motion passes, and we'll pass along our comments to the modification officer. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So we'll move to item 2 on the agenda, which is 2522 Foothill Lane. The proposal is for a 1,022 square foot addition to the first floor and 64 square foot addition to the second floor of an existing 3,208 square foot 2-story single-family residence. The project includes permitting an as-built chain link fence and gates and new pool and spa. There's an existing detached 498 square foot two-car garage located on the 38,873 square foot lot in the Hillside Design District. The proposed total of 4,792 square feet is 98% of the maximum guideline floor area ratio. The proposal includes the abatement of violations listed. Mr. Chair, or Mr. Mahan, if you could do the minutes from the previous meeting.
Yes, number 1 is provide a grading plan in compliance with the stormwater management program. Indicate whether cut and fill are balanced on site or exported. Balanced on site is preferred. 2, provide a partial landscape plan in compliance with the high fire requirements. 3, provide cut sheets for exterior wall and lands. 3, provide cut sheet for exterior wall and landscape lights. 4, provide information about the fence along the south property line and any as-built improvements on the property. Provide a preliminary landscape plan with landscape screening to reduce the apparent height of the structure. Identify existing trees to be removed and to remain. Provide details including handrails and stairways.
Thank you. If you could introduce yourself.
Keith Rivera.
Chris Kimball.
Thank you. If you could point the board out in the direction of all the comments that were listed, so specifically.
Perhaps we can start with the landscape plan
Sure.
then, because I think that addresses most of the concerns
Okay.
about the grading and screening.
Here, Denise.
Okay.
Okay, basically what we're doing here as far as the improvements, we're doing there's an existing stucco wall and columns here, and we're going to do a new stucco wall and with a stone cap to provide more of a courtyard feel. The wall is 4.5 feet from the inside of the courtyard, and then this bumps up to 6 feet from here for a wall fountain and seat wall trough water feature. And then we're incorporating a stucco wall here to have some additional turnaround space and parking, and we're out of the setback in the front yard here. We are removing, there are 2 acacia trees here that we're removing. They're not good for a high fire area anyway, so we're removing those. We're bringing in, there's some existing olives up along the street. We're plugging in some more olives to provide screening from the house above and from the roadway down to the house. And then we'll incorporate some fruitless olives down along the driveway here. In the back, this was the edge of the existing terrace. We're going to do a new terrace spa that's flush with this terrace with the vanishing edge into a lowered little dip pool below. And then we have the steps that come down to this lower terrace and steps that go down to the existing turf area here. In order to mitigate the height of the structure from the downhill side and to screen the views from the property below, this planter will be dropped 30 inches from this terrace, and we'll have a hedge in there like Escallonia or something so that it'll get taller. So that's 30 inches below here, and then we'll grade the area down here and have a dry stack 3-foot high max stone wall on each side. We can grade or fill behind that and bring the grade up so we can minimize this wall, which will now become a 3-foot exposed face from the downslope, and we'll plant it with rosemary or ligustrum or something, just make that wall go away. There are 3 existing arbutus marina trees that are up here, and we're going to relocate them so they flank the sides of the house and so that we still have the views open here. There are existing peppers that are down below, citrus. There is a gap here, so we're going to bring in 2 pepper trees down here to help fill in that void for down below. And then we have a plant list that meets all the high fire plant material requirements.
Yeah. And with regard to the cut and fill, Flowers office has looked at this revised landscape plan, and we're more or less balancing out the site at this kind of preliminary level. So he's looking at about 305 yards of cut and about 300 of fill, and that takes into account the anticipated shrinkage as well. So at this preliminary stage, we're very close to balancing out the site, so we can fine-tune that as we get into design development.
Okay. We don't have a set grading plan, though? I mean...
No, just
Okay.
the landscape plan per se, and then Flowers calculations based on that. With regard to the as-built fence, done a little more research on the permitting history of that, and this was the as-built fence was actually reviewed previously and approved by ABR, and in fact a permit was actually issued. So it appears from the records that the only thing that didn't happen is the final sign-off on the permit didn't occur, and that's why the violation exists. So, again, it's the existing chain link, black vinyl chain link fence that runs around this edge and up to here, returns to the garage. Currently, it extends from the existing house to the neighboring fence. That would be removed as a part of the new work, and we would install a new black chain link fence to span that gap again. So anyway, that's sort of the history on that. Again, it was reviewed and approved previously, permit issued, and just never signed off.
Okay.
And
There were some issues on lights as well. I don't know if
lighting, we have not gotten into the lighting. I frankly didn't recall that from the last meeting. I know it got into the notes. Regarding the terrace, the detailing of the terrace balustrade, that's been updated here. So the owner's looking for kind of a more Mediterranean look that would be some sort of precast system that would tie into the precast columns that exist on the house and the new ones that we're adding.
Okay.
And
Is there any other changes that have occurred?
architecturally, that was the only change, was that change to the balustrade, the introduction, as Chris already went to, on those lower stone walls that would kind of tie things into the site. And I think that's it.
The other stormwater management.
Okay.
Yeah, my understanding from staff was that that was required prior to final approval. Is that correct?
Okay. Anything else presentation-wise?
That's it, really.
Okay. Anybody in the audience that'd like to comment on this project? Seeing nobody's come forward, I'll close public comment. And staff comments?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we do have one comment on the existing dog run that's shown on the site plan and the landscape plan. Well, Mr. Rivera brought it, he showed you that archive plan of the fence, but it didn't include this dog run. It may have all been built at the same time, but the plans have never shown a dog run there. Plus, that permit was never got a final sign off, so it needs to be approved by you to get permitted again anyway.
Okay.
Is there a dog run? Is there a dog run?
Existing?
There is an existing dog run. It's the same 6-foot-high black vinyl chain link fence.
So, Tony, what would be the approval? I mean, is that even needing a permit to build a dog run?
The fence would need the permit. The tricky part with this is if something's called out explicitly as a dog run like this in the setback, we would say you couldn't have it in the setback. But technically, all it is a fence,
Correct.
which is allowed in the setback. So the zoning staff said, if you're concerned about that location of that dog run, to please address it here at the review board level rather than relying on the zoning ordinance to take care of it. So if you have that concern, you might say so.
Okay, thank you. So at this point, I'd like to open up questions to the board.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Question, what's this line right here?
That's a grading
That's
line.
just a grade line?
Yes.
Okay, another question. Since we had testimony, we had a letter in being concerned about this dog area so close to the property line, is there a problem with moving it in?
I think we could live with that, yes.
Thank you. So last time there were some suggestions that the fence wasn't on your property, that it was on the neighbor's property. Is that true, or have we resolved that now?
Well, all I can rely on was the archive, permitted plans from before that showed it on the property line.
I see. I guess the question was it built the way it was approved?
I mean, the other issue, I think, there was this fence that isn't on the property line. So, technically there's that little gap that would get bridged by the new
Is this
fence.
fence the neighbor's fence, or is this your fence?
This is the neighbor's fence. It's not part of the abatement or the permit issue.
That way? there.
Correct.
And this is your property line?
Correct.
Okay. So you may have to talk to your neighbor to see if you could...
Yeah, I think, permit-wise, there'd have to be some sort of agreement that little gap could be spanned, I think.
Sure. Those are my questions.
Thank you. Any other questions? Hearing no other questions, let's go to comments.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a comment. I think if the board wants to see a grading plan before this moves on, I suppose we need to continue it. It's the stormwater management issue is going to come along later. The tear sheet for the lights could come at the final.
Yes.
And colors and all that stuff. I think. I mean, what I like the design. I think the landscaping is an improvement to this style of architecture. I think while this is a large home, it's a large site, and this is an area where Santa Barbara can accommodate larger homes. So I'm positive about the approach. But because there's been quite a bit of change in grading, the board may want to see that. I don't know.
Okay. Any other comments? Gary, how do you feel about that grading comment?
Yeah, I mean, a grading plan, of course, would be nice to see. One of the questions I thought that we brought up last time was about the size of the deck. Was that on the pass-through on the minutes at all?
The flat terrace, the hardscape, you mean?
I know there was some group discussion about that, but we may have slipped it through past the minutes. So.
It didn't get into the minutes.
Okay. Well, I think because I was going to comment on that, but I guess because of the size of the site and the area, it may in fact be acceptable, but it is rather...
Well, that's why that stormwater management is also an important factor. As the terrace gets bigger, we have to figure out where that water is going.
Exactly.
Any other comments? Denise, any? The relocation of those trees is fine?
Yeah, that's really nice. I think the landscape is a wonderful plan that fits well with the architecture, and she's taken great care to preserve trees where you need to and take ones out that are offensive, and looks real good to me.
Okay. And this eventually
Is this adequate for a preliminary approval?
Yes, I would give it preliminary approval. And as for the grading, I mean, she's got tops of walls and she's got her levels here on the plan.
Yeah.
I mean,
Not
I guess
sure
still
I see it all. And if that quantity that Flowers calculated is accurate,
It was
then,
based on this plan,
Yeah.
so. And again, it is preliminary, but, commensurate with the level of the design.
I guess the only thing that I would see that would be missing is some kind of water retention on site. And
You could check that at the final.
yeah, and the turf area is certainly, well, that's a definite big water sink right there. Could act as that, as a recharge. It depends on how it looks like it's sloping down, though. There does need to be some kind of a catch.
So Denise, as far as this landscape plan is concerned, this is a property that's going to have to be reviewed by the fire department?
Yes.
Has that process happened yet? Okay.
And
Don't
storm
think you'll have any
management hasn't
problem.
happened
And
yet.
storm management hasn't happened.
Will storm management happen before it comes to the consent calendar for finals?
That'll be part of the final review at consent calendar.
Okay.
Well, Mr. Chair, I'm prepared to make a motion for a where preliminary approval is a basis for working drawings with finals on consent. I mean, this is an existing house. It's just that we're adding to it. So we're going to want to see a color board. We're going to want to see details of those balusters and all of these materials. We're going to want to see a final landscape and irrigation plan, a stormwater management. You'll have the final grading at that time.
Yes.
So we can look at it. We'll want to see tear sheets on the light and any new light fixtures. If there are new windows added, the details, we want all of those to match the existing or better. And with those comments, I think, we will want to see the dog run be located in from the property so as to not be offensive to the neighboring property. And with those comments, I would make that a motion.
Mr. Mahan, would you include the NPO findings?
In the NPO findings, the size, bulk, and scale is appropriate to the neighborhood. The architecture is appropriate to the and compatible with the neighborhood, and the materials and details will be high quality.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that.
Second. Any comments?
With finals on consent.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I'm just a little bit concerned about us not seeing this again, and I don't know if I'm the only one on the board who feels that way, just because it's a big project with a large deck, and so if we send it straight to consent, that means just one person's going to review it.
No, probably two.
Two.
Probably two.
Okay, all right, that's
Okay.
okay then.
All right. So, all those in favor of the motion? Aye. All those opposed? Motion is approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
10-day appeal period.
I'd like to announce a 10-day appeal period as well. We're a little ahead of schedule. Is our applicant here for the next project? It doesn't look like that.
Shoreline, 1431 Shoreline.
Yeah, I don't see it.
We'll be ready in about 3 minutes now.
So let's take a...
And drank May wine. Now April, May, and June. What?
Never happens.
I'd like to recommence the March 29th Single Family Design Board, and we'll start at item 3, which is 1431 Shoreline Drive. It's a proposal for a 830 square foot roof deck and a one-story 732 square foot addition to an existing one-story 2,476 square foot single family residence on a 15,156 square foot lot. The proposal includes a 1,606 square foot patio, a 685 square foot of remodeling. The proposed total of 3,828 square feet is 89% of the maximum guideline floor to lot area ratio. The project is located in the Hillside Design District and the appealable jurisdiction of the coastal zone and requires Planning Commission review of a coastal development permit. It's a second review. So if the applicant would give...
Brian Nelson, project architect.
But we're going to take a second here to go over the minutes from the previous meeting.
Okay, it says restudy integrating the deck and deck railing into the architecture. That's number 1. Number 2 is give consideration to reducing the size of the roof deck. Number 3 is restudy. Excuse me. Number 3 is restudy the deck stairs. Number 4 is study appropriate landscaping to screen the deck. I think that would be on the west. Number 5 is provide calculations of existing and proposed hardscape. And number 6 was restudy the location of the front wall and appropriate landscaping. I can't remember quite how we changed that because parking is not permitted in the required front yard.
Okay, thank you. If the applicant could give his name.
Brian Nelson, project architect, and
Hugh Twibell, landscape architect.
Okay, and if you could address those comments that we
Yes.
just spoke about.
I'm going to address them kind of one at a time as we go through here. This is, I'd like to start with a little history. This is what we proposed
2 years ago when we started this project. This was the second-story addition on the house, and this was a photo montage we put together. And there's the streetscape, and this is what you can see even today. The lower portion is the existing house, and that is what we proposed on the second floor, 8-foot plate plus a roof. So we're 9.5 feet above the existing roof area. And so this was what was approved, just for your history. We didn't go through that last time. All I came in and said, we removed the second floor. So I just wanted you to see that, to just remind everybody where we were with an approval before.
Did they receive final approval?
This was preliminary. It was comments ready to go to Planning Commission, just like where we are headed now.
Okay.
So I think that's important for you to remember where we were at that point. And then I'd like for you to start by looking at the photographs, because there was a number of things that were discussed last time. So these are the nicest photographs. Those are copies of them. But I'd like for you to start by looking at details, even though we're down to details, and that is that this gate is the gate that comes in from the street. It's an existing gate, has the wrought iron detail with the ivy at the top and bottom. And if you look closely, it has ivy even on the gate itself, even though it's all painted black. So if you see it in daylight, if you see it out on the site, you actually pick up all these details. Even has another round wrought iron detail in the middle. That gate has been mimicked for this gate, which is the one between the garage and the house. And so remember last time I came in with that detail that had the filigree in it? And that's what we were trying to pick up on. These are the gates that are down on the driveway that come in from the driveway for access to the backyard. And again, that same exact detail was picked up. And then the flutes and chutes, or whatever we want to call the detail around the perimeter of the roof, you can see it in detail here. So that's what we would be repeating. It's about 9 inches tall from there to there. And then this is a separate detail. This is just the front porch itself. This particular detail is the front porch. And then also, let's go on the back of this one. Well, it's in another photograph. The fascia on the garage, above the garage doors, is this detail. So I wanted you to start by seeing why we started where we did with filigree last time as far as the railings go. But we have changed it significantly since then. And then photographs-wise, this is the current, what it looks like currently from the street. So, and I think it's important, this is the house that is overlooking the backyard, so to speak. It's the one at 2 Santa Cruz. The owner came in last time, was concerned about privacy and some other issues. And I think that's important for you to know. Okay. Another concern, especially from the neighbor over here at 2 Santa Cruz, was water. Because 1,000 Steps is right here. There's another house in front, and then 1,000 Steps comes down right here. Well, this issue was addressed in 2004. The system was designed, and there already is in place a sump pump back here that takes any water that is on the ground and pumps it back to the street. So no contributing water is going down into the 1,000 Steps. And I wasn't aware that that system had been installed, but it was designed by Penfield and Smith. And here's the calculations, if you care to look at them. It's already been solved, let's put it that way. And we, of course, would have them look at the engineering to make sure that anything we are doing now meets today's standards, and if we needed to change something, a pump or something, we could. Okay? So I just wanted to answer that question, because that was a neighbor's concern last round. All right? All right, some of the things that we have done since the last time then is we have restudied. We did bring Hugh in to talk about landscape, and we'll get there in a few minutes. But last time the concern was about this area in the front as far as parking in the setbacks and things like that. And you'll see from Hugh's landscape plan that we're doing something different up here. We're actually creating a yard with a fence so that you can't park there, number one. Number two, you can't get into there. And number three, the paving area that is large here And if you, let's lay the landscape plan out, because it's important that you understand the permeable area in the front yard.
I apologize. I just came from the blueprinters, and these apparently color copies run so slowly. I was only able to get 2 of them instead of the 3. But
Why don't you explain the permeable area in the front and the walkway? And
well, this is all existing landscaping in here. We did add a 3rd tier or a 2nd tier of planting in between the boxwood hedge and the ligustrum hedge here. But this area in here would be a permeable, probably a stamped concrete, looks like flagstone with planting in between so that it'll absorb water. And then we took the existing flagstone pathway, which comes to about here now. We're going to continue it up to the front door because I thought this would be easier to walk on than this material here. We have hard paving in here and down the side, again, because of the high water table. We're trying to keep moisture away from the house. I think there's a series of drains, and I think there's another sump or drain over in here. So we're trying to keep the moisture away from the house here as well as back here on the back deck. This is existing asphalt paving that goes back to the house at the rear. Right now I think this is all concrete pavers. Felt this would probably drain a little better than the pavers would, and it'd be a little more attractive than the pavers.
why don't you explain this area down here, because that was the concern about with the neighbor over here.
Okay, there's a fence that goes from about here to here. That's a 6-foot fence on this side of the property line. On this side, it's about an 8-foot fence. And it's redwood with a lath on the top quarter. So it's a redwood solid and open fence. From here over to here, it's a 6-foot solid fence. I think it's a painted plywood or something. And I think all these fences were installed by these owners rather than this owner. And then from here over it starts as a 4-foot, and I believe it drops down to 3.5 or 3-foot picket fence in this area. From back here around to here is a 4-foot redwood fence, and then from here over right now is a 6-foot plank fence around the side. So that's what we have away in fencing. Right now there's ginger in this area that belongs to this neighbor, which is quite high. I'd say probably about 10 feet high. And then we've got ligustrum hedge that borders this area here. This is an existing planter, but we're going to put a vine on here on this fence here. And I didn't indicate it, but there is a hedge along here of the same ligustrum that goes to here, which gives privacy to this, a little more privacy to this person here.
Okay.
So I think that answered some of the questions about parking in that front yard and those type of things. So I think that was an important part, and we brought you on because we want to be able to answer the questions landscape-wise at Planning Commission also. So starting with that, one of the things that you had asked last time is to restudy, and do we need all the terrace that's out here? We've taken out 210 feet of terrace all the way across. We just moved everything back to give more yard area, and because we have the roof deck, we don't need as large an area here. So we've decreased it by 210 square feet, so it's now 950. It was 1,070. Okay. Let me see if there's any. Oh, last time I hadn't remembered, and Hugh picked it up, that there is a planter in this large area. There's a planter already here, and there's 2 existing trees that are already in that area. They're small. They're citrus dwarf.
One's a lemon, one's an orange.
So, again, I verified that the 75-foot setback from the bluff is actually running through here. It just touches the property corner, but none of this property is in the bluff setback, the 75-foot retreat area.
Okay.
So and I think that's all for that page. So again, we pulled this back all the way across the entire. You can see the old lines there a little bit. The FARs are at 98 if you include the 3-car or the 2-car and accessory. So we're 89%. 89.
Okay.
So last time, one of the suggestions that we picked up on and thought it was a good idea is instead of just having the railing up there and we had a bar top with a sink, it was suggested, since we have a chimney coming up, maybe we create something for storage, i.e. umbrellas, chairs, those type things up on the roof area. So this is the existing chimney that's coming up. And this is the existing wall line there that we're going to be adding in front of and creating this deck and the space downstairs. And all along we've kind of wanted a fireplace, but this gave us an opportunity to have a fireplace, a sink, and a storage space. The storage space being 7.5 feet high inside, 8 feet on the outside. So we're not going, 9 feet like the second story was. So, and we also were going to step back down in the original scheme, if you remember, step back down at this deck. Well, we decided to take that all the way through at the same level, so it makes this more usable. I put the second story in here so that you can see that this is 21 feet from the property line to the edge of this deck. And when you see the elevations, you'll see that we raise this up so that when you're in these windows here, you can't see this deck over here. So it creates a private deck up here both ways, looking back at the neighbor and the neighbor looking in this way. And the view out is out this way anyway, so when you're on this deck, the view is out that way. All right. So I think I'd like to start from the ocean side, the south side, and we've done a couple of small things and then we've done some bigger things. And what we'd like to do is that's the existing chimney, and we'd make it a square coming up from the existing top of the existing chimney and create this fireplace up there. And then this is the storage space there. And then we took and made an 8-foot high wall fence across the entire north side for wind protection, for privacy, and to actually put an element on the roof as opposed to just the railings that we had in our last scheme. So now again, remember in perspective, if you were standing out in the yard and looking up here at it, if you were here in the yard and you're looking up at, oops, I'm on the wrong side, sorry. If you're standing here in the yard and you're looking up at this, you're only going to see a couple of feet at the top of this when it's the furthest out. And when it gets back here, you probably can't even see it from the yard side. I moved the person from this side to that side, walking along the sidewalk. There's the sight line, so you don't see the bottom 3 feet of that wall. All you see is the top, say, 5 feet of that fence or wall that I have up there. And we'll take that same detail that's here and put it up there. And now you'll see that, we've added the details into the different areas where we already had them on the gates and things, and that's why it was important you saw those photos. So from this house over here, the view back, there's the top of the fence compared to them. They're not going to be able to see onto that deck or vice versa back this way.
Okay.
All right. Then, from the street side, again, it looks like it's a tall wall, but remember, in perspective, this is going to be down about 3 feet. It's going to be down about there if you look at it in perspective. It goes back to that original photo. Yeah, it's a foot lower than that, and this was taken from the far side of the street. So it's a foot lower than this. And it's not all one surface. So these, well, let me rephrase that. These are actually windows that are in the storage room. These are openings. So there'll be, some play with the light, because these are actual windows in the storage area, so they'll be dark, whereas these will be open to the sky beyond, right?
Okay.
Okay. And I added the garage and took away the front elevation of the house because this is what you really see from the street, from the photograph. I had the front elevation of the house drawn, and I wanted you to see that, or remind you that you can't really see all of that.
Okay.
So, can you go down through the comments and we'll just see if we've addressed each one?
We talked about the deck and the deck railing, so you showed us the change of that.
I'd like to show you coming down the driveway what I've done to change it. Yes. The detail that I've come up with now is we would do a little pilaster at each corner and just do 3/4 inch tempered glass connecting each of them with just a tiny metal bar connecting each 6-foot panel. So basically this railing's at 2'6", and then the top of this is 3'6". We've done that all the way around, including on this south side. So at the corners you have a pilaster, and then you have the glass in between.
Okay.
And that keeps a nice simple line. You have this detail coming through and then plaster above it and below it, and the awnings are below that. So you have several different lines of color. You have the green windows, the green awnings, the green detail, and then the plaster in between.
Okay, the second comment was the size of the roof deck. Did the square footage change?
No, we decided that we would really prefer to keep that much. I need to show you one other important thing. One of the most important things. Here they are. I did a neighborhood walk study of roof decks because I think, Bernie, you asked last time, you said this is a precedent-setting roof. Well, it's not. When you really walk the neighborhood and you start looking for all the roof decks in the neighborhood, these photographs were taken. Here's the site. These photographs were taken from this property to this corner, just in this block on either side, okay? And these are the roof decks that I could find, and they aren't all projection decks. This one is a roof deck with structure below it, right? And that's fairly new. It's on the other side of the street, just down a little bit. This is the house next door. Is this the one next door?
Okay.
I can't remember, but it has a roof deck up there, here, right? This is one that's under construction that's down just across from the park, just down this lot down here. And again, they have a roof deck. I can't see these upside down. They have a roof deck back behind this roof here. Okay. This is down the street on the other side, roof deck above a structure. So when I really stopped and looked at it, this isn't setting a precedent for new roof decks. They're all over the place. This is a roof deck that's up about here. I think it's the second one up, on this side, and it has the roof deck with a solid railing coming around. This is from the ocean side, and then I have a picture from the other side that looks like that.
Okay.
They have the glass around the corner, and then it looks like a fence, and I'm hoping ours doesn't look like a fence. And unfortunately, that is really prominent, as you can see. I wish they had shielded that, too.
So, Brian, I think we understand the proposal, and I know we can keep going on this, which is fine, but I want to get to public comment and get our comments.
That's fine.
And then we'll, if you need to show more photographs, I think we can do that at that time.
Okay.
So staff just walked away. I'll open up public comment. I have a comment slip for Sylvia Hoffman. Sylvia, if you could come up to the counter or to the desk. Thank you. And just state your name.
Hi, I'm Sylvia Hoffman. I live at 2 Santa Cruz, which is right next door.
Okay.
And I believe that from what I've heard here and looked at the plans, the concerns I had have been addressed, just about privacy. The privacy issue of there being a deck there, because I know you can't see the deck from the street, but we could see it from our yard
From the side.
across. So it seems that issue has been addressed. And then the drainage issue has also been addressed with the pumps. The size of the deck was we found it rather large, and the terrace also, I think the patio is as big as our original home was, in 1,600 and something square feet. So I think that has been addressed also by reducing it. Can you let me know what I'm going to see from my side?
Okay, we'll address those issues of privacy.
Okay.
And we'll look at the site elevation so you'll understand what you'll be seeing.
Okay.
Okay?
All right, and that's it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any other public comment for this project? At this time, I'll close public comment. Tony, is there any comments from staff or any other letters?
Just wanted to make sure you all got that letter that we received late. Do you have it, Bernie?
Yes.
Okay.
But that was from Sylvia, I think.
Okay. Just making sure we didn't miss anything.
Okay. All right. So I'd like to throw it to the board and ask if there's any questions for this applicant.
Glenn, I'd just like to state that we're going to Planning Commission, and I appreciate detailed questions about what we're going to use for the flutes and shafts and those type of things. But what I'd like out of today's meeting, I hope, is to get the big picture things, and then sidebar all the little details that Planning Commission doesn't need to hear what
Sure.
type windows we're going to use.
Okay, so let's keep our
That's-
comments to
that's what I'd
larger
like to hear.
items, larger ticket items.
Thanks.
Denise?
This is questions.
Questions?
Oh.
No questions? Is there any other board member with a question? Gary? Yes. No? Mr.
Well,
Mahan?
the pictures that you started showing us about the decks along the street there, that's interesting. That's worthwhile information. But the question that follows is, what, generally speaking, are the size of those decks? In other words, is your deck compatible with the neighboring decks in terms of its size? This 800 square feet is, that's a certain size. Do you have any feeling for that?
I don't, because I can't see them from the ground. It appears several of them, for instance, there's one across the street down about here that looks like it's the entire roof of the garage. Looks like it's, at least as big as the garage, and it's a two-car garage, so that'd be 400 square feet.
Okay.
So,
That'd be half as big as yours.
yeah.
Okay.
But I think those pictures kind of prove something. If you find that one that shows the garage in the back behind the building, I guess my question is, why does the size matter if literally nobody can see the deck? I think that's the question. Why not allow a lot of great views from this parcel while it's not interrupting anybody else's? So I think that was the philosophy that I was taking on it.
Okay. You asked.
Size matters because we're not Manhattan Beach. We're trying to keep character within the neighborhood and trying to build something that's more than twice as big as anything else really is skewing everything in the wrong direction. And the pictures that you showed us, most of those homes, except for maybe one or two, were built prior to our committee looking at neighborhood compatibility, and we wouldn't approve those things today.
So that was sort of an answer to one of the applicant's question. If there are any other questions?
That was a comment. That was an answer. That was a comment.
Yeah, that was a comment. So if there are any other questions, we'll get them out. If not, we'll move to comments, which Bernie started to share. Is there any other board member that would have some comments on this project?
Mr. Chair, I have a few comments.
Yes, Gary?
First, I'd like to start with the comments of the railing. I think when we discussed the railing before, how the ornate railing was, and we didn't feel it was compatible with it, I think it's a bit of a departure to go from a 42-inch railing to an 8-foot wall with some openings, some fenestration openings. And I don't think we're comparing it. You're comparing it to what previously was approved of an addition, but this is not an addition, this is a deck. And I don't know if, to me, the wall is a little too aggressive for a deck, the 8-foot wall. The glass railings, I'm not in favor of the glass railings. I don't think they are compatible as well. One of the things I did notice on the landscaping plan was that there is a trash enclosure located in the setback, and that isn't very compatible with our design guidelines as well. It needs to be relocated. These are some things that I noticed on this set, and I would like to see how the rest of the board feels about that, but I think that 8-foot high wall needs to be reduced.
Okay, those are good comments. Any other board member with a comment?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Mr. Mahan?
I had the experience of observing a couple of roof decks in other parts of the city yesterday when my wife and I were driving around over on near Alston Road, and And it came to my attention that roof decks are, they have a very large impact. They can have a very large impact on the neighborhood. The ones that we saw were really egregious. I think a roof deck like this one here that's integrated into the architecture is perfectly fine, and it's really a roof deck on the first floor surrounded by architecture so that it fits into the composition, the architectural composition. And what that so I started thinking about that, and I started thinking about this particular project, and it led me to believe that we probably should have some kind of a wall, as the architect has suggested, that makes it more. I mean, in this particular case, you're really screening off the roof deck so that it isn't even going to be visible, and something like that. So I'm disagreeing with Gary. I'm thinking that the wall maybe is at least that's a good approach, rather than just having the umbrellas sticking up and all of this kind of stuff. I believe, however, that the roof deck is too big. We suggested that last week, and I'm still feeling it's too big. It's equivalent to two-car garages, or in other words, a 4-car garage. The applicant asked the question, what's the difference if nobody can see it? Well, the difference is and it's an intensity of use. You can get a lot of people up on a deck, and if it's a big deck, and so that means maybe lights at night. That means music. It means laughing and having a good time and everything. So there's some impact on the neighborhood depending on how big the deck is. A little deck like we see here in these are going to be intimate decks used by the family, and that's really appropriate, I think, to any neighborhood. But maybe an 800 square foot deck is, in my estimation, is too much. But I do like screening it. I disagree with Gary. I think screening it is the right solution, and it makes it more a part of the architecture than having just the railing and the people and the umbrellas and all of this, the sink and all this stuff being visible. So I'm positive about screening the deck. I have never liked these openings in a wall up on the second floor where the really bright. The wall itself is in shadow because it's on the north. It's facing north, and the sky coming through that aperture is very, very bright, and I find that to be offensive. But I think that could be that could be maybe there could be glass in there. I mean, people want to look out at the mountains. There could be glass in there, and it could be solar bronze or some.
Sure.
There would be, and that would actually help your wind problem too. So, I mean, to stay in the big issues of if this is going to go on to Planning Commission, I can't make a recommendation yet because of the size of the deck. But I think the project is definitely headed in the right direction. I think the landscaping is greatly improved. I think you've solved the problems that we were concerned about in the front yard. You're getting real permeability here. Given your additional information on the filigree and the kind of Roman details that are on this house already, I feel that maybe the direction that you were going last week in terms of the railing was better, although maybe that was a little too much and it could be softened in some way. But I'm not ready to send this on with positive recommendations to Planning Commission yet until we see this deck made smaller.
Okay. Denise?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Well, I lay somewhere between Mr. Mahan and Gary. I think the wall screening is a good idea, but I think it's too tall, and I don't necessarily think the perforations in it are appropriate either, not to this particular architecture. It seems like a very, very, very modern thing to be doing up high, where everyone can see it, actually. So perhaps something lower would work. And then while we were on that subject, the glass railing, I'm wondering why that just couldn't be a continuation of the architecture and of that wall, but shorter coming around, and so that you don't have to have the glass in it, like a 42-inch high piece of masonry or whatever to match the rest of the house. Instead, I'm just throwing that out there because the glass railing is certainly something we don't care to see on most houses. Other than that, I agree that the landscape plan is quite nice. I think it did address the permeability of the property. I want to just clarify something. What was the size of that roof deck again? What's the square footage?
800.
Oh, it's 800. I thought I heard you say something like that there was a 400 square foot.
A neighbor
that was way bigger, so I was confused. No. Okay, all right. That is a bit large. Although I'm a little torn on this issue because, again, if no one can see it and it's screened well, it's in the back of the house, it's not hanging off the front of the house. I'm on the fence about that. I don't have that much of an issue with it as others do.
Okay,
That's
Bernie,
it.
comments?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Brian. I love the landscaping. I'm fine with everything except for the size of the deck. I really don't think it falls into our guidelines, and it needs to be reduced so that it's more in compliance with other decks that are in the neighborhood in terms of its size.
Thank you. Brian, I kind of concur with the majority of the board as well. I think that to me, the walls that surround the deck that do the screening are appropriate. They may be a little high. The openings in them, again, maybe want to be filled in.
Yeah.
But the pure size of the deck is an issue, I think, for the majority of the people on the board. For me, it is as well. Not that you can't see it, but it does generate a ton of noise. They could set up a band on one side and have a dance floor on the other. So, but it's possible, and that's what we're trying to think about here. So we did ask you to study reducing the size, and you didn't reduce it, you just sort of screened it.
Right.
So I'm not sure we can give positive comments right now, so it's up to you whether you would like to take our comments and go back to the drawing board a little bit and tweak it some. I think generally you're going in the great direction.
It sounds like the majority of the board is in favor of the screening, and it's just the size of the deck. So,
is there any board comments about the fireplace up there? Because that could be integrated into one of the walls, and that's fine, I guess. Okay.
Mr. Chair, I wanted to comment a little bit more about the screening.
Okay.
And it has a lot to do with the architecture of the screening and how it's balanced on the building and how it's, it's really quite boxy, and it's not articulated. It is the expanse of the building, and I think that when it's shorter in nature, you don't particularly see it. But as it is right here, I think that it is not compatible with the architecture, and I think we need to. I think Denise was right that maybe it should be shortened a little bit to. Maybe it should be a 5-foot wall, or maybe it should be shortened where the stairs come up, and so I think if it is to change a little bit, I don't think it is ready as it's proposed. I think it needs some work.
I think the whole board has that same opinion right now. As it's not ready for approval, so we're asking the applicant to restudy again size, restudy the screening height, and the screening at some point detailing of it, of how, if it's got a little parapet, or if it's like this old version here, does it have another band at the top of the screening of the deck? To study the openings or glass elements that are on that wall. those are the big ticket items. We can talk about the railing and the glass railing and other things, but I think we have to get comfortable with the deck size.
Okay, I'd like to propose that, just as you asked for it, and this is the 8-foot portion, 8 foot from finished deck to top of roof, and then this is a 6-foot.
How big is the deck?
It's the same size deck.
So
I'm just talking about the screening itself
Yeah.
at this point.
It looks better.
It's better.
Okay.
That's a good direction to head in.
Okay, that's what I needed to know.
Okay.
And then I guess I would like a straw vote or something on the glass rail on the other side. The reason that we're doing 12 inches of glass is because when you sit down a 42-inch high rail, you can't see the horizon.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the whole reason for the deck is to see the ocean. So that's why we are doing the glass for 12 inches, so that when you're sitting at the table or sitting on a chair, you can see the ocean,
Okay.
without doing that.
So let's do a quick straw vote
That's what I'd like.
on the glass railing versus other ways of getting a guardrail situation. Or could we support glass railing on this project is probably the
That's
easiest
what I'd like
solution.
to hear.
May I make a comment?
Sure.
The only reason I could is because it's only 12 inches, right? It's not the whole thing. It's just the top. It's a viewport through the railing, basically. So it's not excessive, in my opinion.
So let's take a vote
Okay,
instead
well,
of...
before we do that, to enlarge upon that, we're talking about the glass railing where the people that are using the deck are looking, but it doesn't necessarily have to go down the steps.
Correct.
And it doesn't have to be used
There might be
everywhere.
some-
So where it's functional, yes.
On the
glass
south
railing would
elevation.
be On the south elevation.
Thank you, Bill.
So let's... Okay, so this is the south elevation here, facing the ocean. There are elements in between solid stucco pilasters of glass railing for the top 12 inches of...
Yeah, let's go back to this simpler elevation on that south side. Yeah, where we're running the glass between the corner pilasters.
Okay. Bernie, do you see that? Okay. So I'd like to take a straw vote. All those board members that could support glass railing on the south elevation in
For the top 12 inches.
for the top 12 inches on this project.
Cody?
So that's 3 out of 5.
Okay.
So that's
Thank you.
general support.
And then it sounded like everybody was in favor of this, the 6 foot on the sides and 8 feet.
Well,
I mean,
something like that.
how about we?
How about that's the right direction to go, and we'll see.
I'd like to almost do another straw vote of how many people could support 800 square feet deck on this project, a roof deck.
Probably the only one.
Well, I just want to give the applicant fair
Right.
direction. That's what
Thank
I
you.
want to give them.
thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, do you want that second straw vote on the size of the deck in the minutes?
I think Brian would like
So
that.
it's 5 in
So-
favor, 1 in favor and 4 opposed. Okay.
So I think you have to study reducing the size, the square footage of the deck, and this looks like a good direction for the screening of the deck.
Great.
Mr. Chair,
We'd like to take.
I think we need to establish a good direction for the applicant. I really think we should say a significant reduction. You know, a reduction it's 830 feet now, so it could come back to 800 feet, and that would be a reduction. I think.
No, I understand.
Yeah.
I got it.
There's no support for an 800 square foot deck, and there's not going to be support for a 790 square foot deck.
No, I understand. Got it. Okay. I'd like a continuance to come back on the 12th, because I want to take the Planning Commission, what we're going to take the Planning Commission. I don't want to go comments and say, we reduced it after they looked at it.
Okay.
So
So can we?
The 12th available?
The 12th is available to come back here. Okay. So
I'll make a motion for a continuance to the 12th of April for the applicant to restudy and reduce the size of the deck and restudy the screening wall to the north with the comments that the board likes the direction of varying heights and that we accept a glass, 1 foot, 12 inches of glass railing on the viewing side where it is functional. for viewing, and we generally support the landscape plan as submitted.
Second?
Second.
Second, comments?
Comments. We don't support the glass railings, 3 out of the 5.
The majority of the board members.
Okay, well, we may want to just keep that because we're missing 2 of our members. And then, did you want to add the word significantly reduce? You said that earlier, but you said to reduce the size of the deck, but in the motion you didn't have the word significantly.
Significant reduction.
Okay, so we've got a second. More comments?
I've got a second. Well, under discussion, would the motioner like to include to remove the trash out of the setback area?
Yes. Let's include that.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the motion? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, the motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you in 2
We'll
weeks.
see you in a couple weeks.
Do you want to keep these? Do you need to keep these, Tony?
Probably.
The text?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to move to item 4, 1335 Mission Ridge Road. This proposal is to abate violations listed in Enforcement Case 2010-80 and permit as-built maximum 8-foot high retaining walls and construct 714 square foot terrace. Stairs, trellis, fountains, and 115 cubic yards of grading. The project is located in the rear yard of a 5,318 square foot, 3-story single-family residence on a 17,043 net square foot lot in the Hillside Design District. This is comments only, and the project requires environmental assessment. This is a new item. Welcome.
Hello, I'm Brian Murphy, the project architect. Tony, do you have the photos also? And I've got some additional photos looking from Viscano Road down below the project, the next road below, which staff asked me to bring in. But the house on this lot, we have our approvals on, and we're underway in working on that. But we have a new proposal here for a deck and terrace area with a little arbor also. Current project has some deck areas and some stairs that come down. We'll be taking off from those stairs and creating a terrace that then kind of connects up to the adjoining property, which is owned by the same owner, and his mother and sister live in that house. So it's sort of an area that they can use together, a common area.
Can I ask you just to also pinpoint the enforcement issues, the retaining, there's some retaining walls and terraces that are part of this?
Right. The walls are built currently at this line. This will be a fence wall. This was going to be retaining. We're removing that wall. Those walls are noted to remove, and we're moving it back out of the setback so that our retaining will be at this point now to stay out of that setback. And this area will be filled to create a level terrace area through there. Yes. So this wall will be... Actually, I'm sorry, I'm going to the wrong wall. This wall will be removed. This wall will remain as a fence wall on the property there. The retaining wall will move back into the 10-foot line, and our terrace will be then filled from that point over. These are some of the existing stairs that come down. We come down these stairs, and that will be where the terrace will then happen. This is looking from the adjacent property, where we'll have a walkway that connects the two up, so that both properties can utilize that terrace area. The existing house up above, just to give you some context of that, the existing terrace above, driveway terrace above, more of the existing house above. And this is up the street of the house above. This is the driveway of the adjacent property, looking at those existing walls. again, at the driveway of the adjacent house, looking up at the existing house beyond the new terrace walls down below. And so our walls would have a little stone cap, a little native sandstone cap to them, plastered CMU walls with a stone balustrade railing. In certain areas, we don't want to do too much of it, make it too harsh on that edge, but in areas where we're right at the edge with the deck, we'd have the stone balustrade. In other areas, we'd have the planters fill in and keep you away from the edge with the planting to match.
This is new.
Yes, the new arbor. Also with the columns and wood beams. Maybe some vining coming up through.
Okay. Is there anything else for this proposal?
That's it.
Okay. Tony, are there any staff comments from this project as far as the enforcement?
No, just that we haven't completed the environmental assessment. We're requesting a soils report showing drainage and erosion control recommendations, and also Tier 3 stormwater management compliance.
Okay, thank you. At this point, I'll open up public comment to see if there's anybody in the audience that would like to comment on this project. Seeing nobody jump up, I'll close public comment and send it to the board for their questions.
So, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
So, Brian, this is going to be, this wall now is going to be, this is the property line wall, right?
Yes.
And 6 feet or something like that. So this is down at the, is this at the top of that wall or at the bottom of that wall?
It's the bottom of that wall. So.
And then it comes across here, then it comes up.
Yes.
6 feet or 7 feet or something like that?
Yes.
And then this is paved. I mean, this is going to be filled in and paved over.
Yes.
And this wall comes around here like this.
It does. And this is then planter around it with some,
So this is all filled in here, and
Yes.
then this is paving on top, and
Yes.
then the trellis is. I see. And so you can walk out onto this here.
No, this is lower also. So it's a stepped down planter. This is level, this planter, but here this line is the retaining line, so that you step down to this planter.
So which way do these steps work?
They go up to access this planter, basically. Is all
So this
that's
is
for.
down below here.
Yes.
This comes up. But these steps don't come up to here.
No.
You can get up to there.
No, you come up this way.
I see.
And there's a wall here, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Do we have elevations of this? Did you do any elevations of it looking up so we can see what the apparent height? I mean, we don't have the house, though. I mean, the apparent height is.
I didn't put it in beyond here because it kind of dwarfs everything else.
We do have a guideline that, the question is, what is that height there? We have that guideline that requires us to look at that height.
So yeah, this would be the ridge. It looks like a tower element that maybe
that
be excluded. So it would be that dimension right there.
Right, our 30-foot maximum height runs through, and this does exceed it, the tower.
Can we figure out what that is? Just
Sure.
some way here?
Sure, I think you're talking about striking a line and then measuring
Why don't you
vertically.
strike the line and I'll scale it? Just a dot, actually, is all we need over here. What is this? Is 8 scale?
Yeah.
So we're talking about something like 48, 47 feet, something like that.
Okay.
Okay.
Any additional questions right now? Gary?
The balustrade that you're planning on using, is that the ones that's depicted in these photographs here?
Well, something to sort of match it. Obviously, we have to change the proportion of it slightly because the requirements currently make us be a 42-inch handrail instead of the 36, but to try and match it as closely as we could, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the only question.
Any other questions?
Did you do any Tier 3 mitigation on stormwater management.
We haven't defined that yet, but I'm thinking that I can do some areas that certainly will bioswale and also some pervious paving areas.
Okay, let's move into comments if we could. Anybody on the board?
Mr. Chair,
okay, Gary?
Some comments. I have some concern with the balustrade, the proportions of it. As it's depicted, the size of them, the problem with this is that the balustrade looks good, but the new guidelines with the proportion of this type of balustrade and the 4-inch sphere, it doesn't work out anymore. They get so close together that they don't look proper. They don't look natural. And for that reason, I'm not in favor of the style that is proposed. Narrower ones or something to that nature, but as proposed, the style of balustrade, I think, needs to be reviewed.
Any comments regarding the grading, the massing, the height?
My first reaction was an 8-foot wall. Oh my gosh! But Brian has mitigated by putting some planter beds to get rid of some of that height at a 3-foot planter bed, and that is a good solution to it. So I don't particularly have a problem with the height of the walls because of that. The stone cap is a nice feature, and I appreciate the sandstone cap going in. We'll have to look. I'm looking forward to seeing a little bit more on the mitigation. Tier 3 is a pretty good level of stormwater management mitigation. I look forward to seeing it.
Okay, anybody else on the board with comments?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
I mean, personally, I like the design, and I think it's charming. This 4-inch thing is a real problem, and it's not your fault. It wrecks all. Are these 42-inch high then too? On top, are they on a curb?
It's on a little curb.
Well, it's on a curb.
A little curb, so that they have the right proportions. I don't know if you can, if you could find something that would. I don't know. It's a sort of a problem, but generally speaking, I like the design in itself. But I have concerns about the bigger composition of. It's not only this, but it's this and this and this and all this going up the hill. We have our apparent height, is an issue in our guidelines, and this is probably very visible from down below. I don't know.
You can't see it.
No. I'm talking about like when we look out these windows or something like that. When we look out these windows, we see the big yellow house, which is that's on Las Alturas. But
the other pictures over there show looking up at it. Actually.
Yeah, but from the cityscape, I'm talking about the Riviera. This composition on the Riviera. So what I want you to do is I want you to bring us back more information about that. I want you to bring us some pictures from I don't know where, Melpas Street or here, out these windows or somewhere. I don't know exactly if we can see your house. Maybe you say that, but you look down on somebody else, and then when you're looking down on somebody else, they're looking back at you. Yes. So see all these houses out here? They're all looking up at you just like you're looking down at them. So what we need to have some pictures from a distance that shows the Riviera and shows all of the big houses there. Okay. Is this compatible with that? Maybe you need to ghost it in as it will be, so that we can better evaluate the apparent height and the impact on the Riviera and on the neighborhood. That's the thing. Okay. Personally, I think the design is charming.
Okay. Comments from Denise, Bernie? Everything? Okay. So, some of my comments are, I agree with Mr. Mahan that it is a charming solution. I'm not quite as concerned about the screening from down below. There's quite a distance. There are planters, there are level changes, and it's broken up. It's not a mass coming across a three-story building. So those are all positive elements. And right now we can only make comments. We can't make any approvals. What we could ask is, again, the information that Mr. Mahan spoke about getting some more photographs together, maybe some study of the balustrade design to make sure that we understand the final concept of how that would happen. If there are any other comments regarding landscaping that we could incorporate into the next round, that would be fabulous. The same with stormwater management. If we could start addressing that to understand how that will be handled. At the same time, hopefully all of the environmental assessment will be complete by then.
I will make a motion for a continuance. How long do you want?
Well, it is an enforcement case, so I think we
have to set a time. You want to take this back to the 14th again? Can we get it on the 14th agenda?
We need to have a soils report here.
Okay, that'll take longer than that.
14 and 14, 7, 4 and 7 is 11. That'd be the 31st, wouldn't it? What?
There's a calendar up there, but
I can't see. 14th and 14. No, that'd be the 28th.
4 weeks would be the 26th. April 26th.
I'll make a motion for a continuance to the 26th for staff to hopefully complete the environmental assessment, and for the applicant to bring us more information on the apparent height and what its impact is on the views of the Riviera, and studying the balustrade further to see if there's some solution to that because it's in character with the architecture, and give start working on the storm management. Maybe get that resolved so we know how your water's going and how that's all being taken care of. That's my motion.
Is there discussion on the motion? I'd like to add some sort of probably landscaping component to the motion.
Oh, good idea.
Okay.
Yeah. So just a more development, a preliminary.
What are we talking about? Yeah, that's right. Preliminary landscape plan.
Okay.
Okay. So no more discussion. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Okay, the motion carries. We'll see you in a couple weeks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So we're on to item number 5, I believe, and we're a little bit late, but we apologize for that. This is 830 Arbolado Road. Second review, the proposal for an as-built alterations consisting of 464 square foot addition, conversion of an existing patio, the addition of 394 and 434 square foot wood decks, a 32 square foot outdoor garden fireplace, 10 square foot garden fountain, and a 200 square foot cistern for an existing 2,671 square foot one-story single-family residence. Removal of the existing cistern located in the front yard setback is proposed. The project will abate violations under enforcement 2008 1432 or 52. The proposed total of 3,686 square feet on the 1.16 acre lot of a hillside design district is 72% of the maximum guideline floor to lot area ratio. So again, this is a second review. We should have some minutes on this from a previous meeting. Mr. Mahan?
Okay, thank you. Let's see. This motion failed. The motion that passed had these comments. Was continue the staff hearing officer and return to Thank you. Continue the staff hearing officer and return to the consent calendar with the following. This isn't coming to the consent calendar.
Well, I'll explain that.
There's been a design change of some sort.
Okay, but you did go to the staff hearing officer.
We didn't have to.
You didn't have to. Okay, so these may not be pertinent. Study alternative materials for eliminating the glass railing.
That's the only reason we're here.
Okay, the cistern and decks are supportable. So it's the glass railing. Is the
Okay,
thing.
so let's open it up to the applicant. If you could.
My name is Raymond Appleton with Permit Planners, and this is Kurt Magnus, the architect who's presented the drawings, and this is Glenn and Amy Batchelor, the owners of the property.
Welcome.
This, following our presentation, it may be that we simply ask for a continuance in order to have the full board hear this issue on glass railing. As we know, this has been a discussion item for the board. As you know, I've attended the meetings about the glass railing when you had it as a discussion item. I've saved those recordings. Mr. and Ms. Batchelor reviewed them. It seemed like when we had our first appearance, it was a 4-3 vote, and that in reviewing the recordings, 2 of the people who voted against it felt that glass railings in general were basically opposed by the city. Since then, we've had the discussions, we've had staff report from Jaime Limon, and in Jaime Limon's actual minutes from that meeting, he actually says that glass railings, and then this was what I understand what we viewed your comments to be later on the recording, where the glass railings themselves were not objectionable, were not totally, there was not an absolute opposition to them, but it was when they were, he says, highly visible and potential of high glare. And those are his exact words from the comments. So they heard that again, and I'll say this, that I've always respected this board and the ABR's opinion. In 25 years, this is the first time and I've been here over 100 times probably, I've ever come back for reconsideration on an item that you felt against. But I felt that in this case, that there had been a new discussion and a new decision been made about the glass railings and based upon their visibility. So we decided to show you more evidence about the fact that not only are these not highly visible, as Mr. Limon and the board previously discussed, but it is not moderately visible. The deck and the railing are not visible from off-site. In fact, when you walk on the property, even in front of them, you can't see them. You have to actually get on the deck. I'd like the minutes to record that we previously presented a letter signed by all the neighbors saying they were in support of everything about the project. You originally approved everything about the project except the glass rail. We've got another letter now that I'll present from another neighbor who lives right across the street who wasn't home last time. He has re-signed, and this time he says he's for the glass railing. Of course, he can't see them. He has to be invited onto the property and onto the deck to actually see the railing. And I want to just give a quick background for this. Mr. and Ms. Batchelor came here many times over the years. Recently, last year, decided to retire here and move here. They searched high and low for a property that would give them absolute privacy. Not only did they want to be seen from their neighbors, they did not want to see their neighbors, not even the rooftops. Nothing personal, and it's difficult to find a property with a view of the city that cannot itself be seen and cannot see the other neighbors. What they found was a one-story home that had originally been developed and built into the hillside. The front door at the back is actually 8 feet below grade. When you arrive at the garage, you actually go down and there's a retaining wall. The whole house has been, even though it's only one story, has been set down into the hillside. In our guideline books where we have the plus and the minuses over the drawings, this is one of the pluses you get on the side view.
Let's look at the rails.
Okay, but I want you to know that they looked for that and they found this, and now the previous owner had put this glass railing on, and they felt it was fine. So here's one thing I want to show you. First, we didn't show you this before. This is a view from the glass rail of all the neighboring directions, looking to the ends, and then looking out in front. As you can see, all of the landscaping of their property actually comes up, and it's like they're sitting in the canopy of the trees and the foliage. Their house is actually, as you can see on the site plan, kind of in the middle of its own little forest, and of full-size oak trees and full-size landscaping. This is from the deck, because this is how you can actually see the railing and see beyond in every direction. You can't even see the rooftops of neighboring trees, and they cannot see us. Now I'm going to show you a picture of exhibit. This is the negative side of the guidelines for glass railings. This is on the same block, Arbolado. This is a house with glass railings, a 2-story home, not built into the hillside, with full glass railings. This is what we are not. We are not that. This is what we are. These are 8 shots taken from every spot all along the views of the property itself, from out in front of the street. These are, as you can see, if you stop and walk when you're walking along this street, you can't see anything when you're driving, but if you're walking and you stop, you can weave your head back and forth and occasionally catch a glimpse of the rooftop of the house or a slight glimpse of the deck, but it's almost invisible. So not only is it not highly visible, moderately visible, slightly visible, it is invisible to its neighbors. So if there is anything that would pass the city council's approval on the fact that glass railings are not absolutely opposed in this city, this is the best example I have ever come across.
Okay.
We have the color board with us. Kurt has produced the color board for the railing as they are stained, and the underside, the little skirt. And another part of this story is that this house, because I told you it was all built down into the ground, out of view, it does have an 18-inch skirt around the deck, so it sticks up 18 inches out in the front of the deck. And now the combination of that 18-inch skirt and this 42-inch rail creates the 60 inches that are required for their little swimming pool and spa that are required. Cable doesn't do that. That doesn't accept cable because people can climb a cable and get in. So they don't accept that. So the glass railing meets that requirement. Without that, they've got to either block that view that you saw earlier of all of their beautiful landscaping when they're sitting in their home up in the canopy with a solid wall, or they've got to put a chain link fence of 120 feet long all the way around down through their yard, a black 5-foot chain link fence to service their pool. So the glass railing also provides that technical and requirement for the pool. So what I'm looking for here, I guess, is a straw vote. If this is still considered to be objectionable, if this one property where you can't even see it, and even where the architecture was deliberately designed so that the home itself was out and was recessed down into the ground, built in, as we want homes on the hillsides to be built, if that is still objectionable, then we would ask for a straw vote to give the board, the full board, the 7-member board, a chance to review this. But if you can see now that this is at least an example that does pass that, and it is certainly not that other property that's just built out, that's almost like the negative on the guidelines. If this cannot pass, then that's what we would want. But
Sure. I think that presentation was fantastic. We didn't really open up the drawings though and see what we're doing.
Yeah.
There are new areas of deck that are either built already.
Yeah, they're the two wooden areas on the side.
And that's what the enforcement case is?
Right.
Okay.
But you approved that last time.
Okay.
And the addition?
Uh-huh.
No, that's always this portion here? Yes.
Okay.
That's an interior remodel.
So I just wanted to look at the drawings to make sure they coordinate with what the photographs show.
Yeah.
And it looks like they do.
You can see the south elevation, 831, and we see where we tried to show what the landscaping that's up in front of the glass.
Okay.
And you'll also notice there's even landscaping built into the deck itself that's full growth coming up that blocks portions of the house. So just looking for some feeling here.
Sure. Let's conclude the presentation and open up public comment to see if there's any neighbors.
Oh.
We can open it back up. Any public comment? Nobody coming forth. I'll close public comment. Is there any staff comment?
Mr. Chair, the first time this came, there was an existing cistern that was in the setback that they were requesting to keep. So at that point, it was comments only from the board, but they're proposing now to remove the cistern, so they don't need to go to the staff hearing officer, so you can take an action on this item.
So we actually can review the entire complexity of the project and make a rule, make a motion.
Yeah, last time you approved it and agreed to let us come back on consent. That's how, and it was after a long discussion and review.
So, questions of the board members? No questions? Let's move into. Okay, Gary.
I'm looking at the plans here, and I did notice a note on here. This is in the high fire area, and I noticed that you have a note that says new 1x6 wood decking, and I believe that doesn't meet high fire.
It's 2x. I don't know why it's 1x6. It's 2x. You mean the board decking itself is 2x? Mm-hmm. I went out there and even stuck my tape down. I'm sorry, Kurt, I didn't tell you that.
Oh, that's okay. Good. It's also the hardwood.
But they did, and they required a
Okay.
skirt to be put around it too, and we're putting the skirt around it, the 18-inch skirt.
Any additional comments?
Sure, I have comments.
Yes, sir. Mr. Mahan.
Well, this came before us, and I think it precipitated our setting up a committee to review glass railings, and we discussed that at the board, and I think the result of the discussion was that some glass railings are all right and some aren't all right, and since then we have been more relaxed in terms of our review. I think we were just the applicant before us up on the mesa there. We were saying, some glass is okay.
I'm not sure relax is the word. We're just looking at it for appropriateness of our...
Right, appropriateness. In general, deck railings, our guideline says material should be selected to be consistent with the architectural style of the structure. The use of decorative glass railings as guard rails or as windscreens is not the preferred material at highly visible locations due to the possible glare association with these types of installations. Installation of reflective glass material will be reviewed to determine if the installation is compatible with the structure and that it does not create significant glare problems. My comment is that I don't believe, and I'm very familiar with this site because I drive by it almost every day, the glass railing is not visible, and so maybe there's a question of whether or not it's compatible with the architecture, but I don't think that there would be any question that this would meet our criteria for being acceptable in terms of not being visible.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Yes, as I recall, when we had the discussion with Jaime, too, that it was decided that we would look at these on a case-by-case basis.
Sure.
And this, in my assessment, is definitely one that I think we should allow. It's not offensive at all. You can't see it. That's the perfect criteria. And it's nicely done.
Yeah. Bernie, any comments?
I'm still thinking.
Okay. Okay, and let's get Gary's comment.
Well, I'm kind of having a little trouble getting a photograph of the building itself. Do you have a photograph of the building itself?
You can't see the building, which is really difficult. I even got down below the deck and tried to shoot up into it.
Do you have a picture of the front of the building, the side of the building?
You can't see the front of the building from anywhere down below.
From what I
You're standing in a forest.
From what I do see, I see a portion of it here. There we are. Thank you.
It's a contemporary building, one-story low, ranch style.
So one of the things that I wanted the board to consider was architectural compatibility.
Yeah.
And, I do notice that it has some mission tile roof, and I don't know what the whole building looks like as a whole. But I'm not 100% positive that this is the type of glass that would be compatible with this type of architecture. And the other thing that I wanted to, and the other thing that I wanted to have the board aware of, that landscaping does not necessarily mitigate a glass railing. Landscaping can be removed. Landscaping can be devastatedly gone by fire, and landscaping is not always the mitigation for a linear thing like a glass railing on the perimeter of property. So these are just some things to chew on. Whether or not this is an acceptable situation, I'm not saying that at this point.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Bernie, did you get to it?
Just that it's important for people to realize that we're not looking at what a specific owner needs to do and what they need. We're trying to look at the long term. We're going to be dead and gone, and this stuff is still going to be around. So, it's you saw previously in one of the speakers who was just up here a few minutes ago, is what they do is they take whatever is approved, and then they're going to use that over and over again, and they bring in a photograph. So I do have some concerns about this. I'm trying, to listen to the guidelines and pay attention to everything, but mainly it's because it's so huge. I'm just thinking perhaps if it wasn't the entire perimeter of the property and maybe just maybe reduced with some other materials to not make it so gigantic, it would be easier for me to fully support it.
You're talking about the perimeter of the deck?
I'm talking
if it
about
would-
the glass railing
Yeah.
being so everywhere.
On the whole deck?
Yeah, so let's get our comments out.
Chair.
Yes, sir.
I think if you look up here at this particular, the lower elevation there, which shows the glass railings, and I think this is one of the things that we discovered when we went out looking at glass railings and the buildings with large extents of glass, that the windows themselves have just as much glare quality as the glass railings. In fact, in some ways they have more because it's darker behind that, and so the sun is reflecting back off of there. So when you see that this has glass all the way there, this is, if this were visible, and I'm telling you, this is not a visible house. It's a long ways from the street. No, I want to show the site plan here. I mean, this is a long, I don't know what that dimension, what are we scaling here? It's
80 feet.
Yeah, 80 feet back. These are not like some of the things that we took pictures of where you're right on the street. The other thing is, this is not a George Washington Smith architecture. This is more of a Cliff May 1950s ranch house. Yes, it does have tile, but Cliff May used tile, and it's more of a contemporary ranch style house. And for that reason, I believe that the glass railing, because it's not visible, is appropriate to the architecture.
Okay, thank you. Any additional comments? Okay. Denise?
In this situation, I think what happens is that railing completely disappears. And what is, I think, to just piggyback on what Mr. Mahan said, is that what would be more offensive is actually the windows behind it, like you said, and that you will see completely through, and it just becomes air. So,
yeah.
Unless it was.
Well, Glenn?
Just make one point, is that okay?
Well, wait till Glenn finishes.
Hold on, there'll be time at the end. I want to understand, we've already given a preliminary approval to this project, no? No. So it was going to Planning Commission, and then it didn't need to go.
We took out the cistern, I'll just tell you. We took the cistern out of the project and agreed to remove it so that if we came here for the glass railings and you denied it, we could appeal to the city council with one straight question and not have the cistern involved.
Okay, so Tony, my understanding is we can take an action on this project. Okay? At this point, I can talk to Mr. Appleton and see if we could do a straw vote or just actually make a motion for approval and see how that
Well, we're
works.
kind of waiting for your comments.
Can I ask a question first?
Sure.
This is, I guess, for Tony. Do the glass railings fall under the category for the high fire zone? No.
Well, I can't really answer building code questions, but I don't
it
think
doesn't.
there's a problem with it.
It doesn't burn, but it shatters.
Is there a...
Anyway, Mr. Chair, I'm ready to make a motion.
And-
Just to see how it happens. Just see how it
Sure,
works.
sure. And
I would make a motion for a preliminary and final. Do we have details of this?
Yeah, there's
Is it
all
all worked out? Colors and everything? We're not doing this part of it too, this fountain back here?
Yeah, there was a fountain at the rear, and we've got a photograph of that if you need to. You saw it last time. It's actually built down behind the house, into the retaining wall behind the house.
We didn't have problems with that.
I have one small question. The new deck areas, are they built per code height-wise?
Yes.
So what we're seeing is probably going to be approved by the building department.
Oh, yeah, we've already
Okay.
been to the building department. I've met with them about
Okay.
that.
So I'm going to make a motion to approve the glass rail as submitted, along with the 32 square foot outdoor fireplace and the 10-foot garden fountain, for a preliminary and final approval as submitted.
Making MPO findings.
Making the MPO findings and with the colors as on the color board and the details. And the findings are that this is compatible with our guidelines for glass railings because it is not visible. I believe it's appropriate to the architecture, and consequently, it's acceptable.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Discussion? Vote. Okay. All those in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Close.
Okay.
4-1.
4-1. We have an approved project. Any
And we have a 10-day appeal
10-day
period.
appeal period.
I should tell you now, I did wear my lucky shirt. I had an advantage you didn't know about.
Lucky shirt.
You want to hear what we have to say? Oh,
Do you want to risk your approval?
We're just so thrilled to be in Santa Barbara, and we're here long term. And we really appreciate everything you're doing. Yeah, we hope we're in this house for a long, long time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn.
We'll move to item 6 on the agenda. This 2016 Cleveland Avenue. This is the second review. This is a revised proposal for a 286 square foot one-story addition to the existing 1,356 square foot one-story single-family residence. Demolish the existing 202 square foot one-car detached garage and construct an attached 311 square foot two-car carport, and expand an existing 64 square foot wooden deck by 41 square feet. The proposed total of 2,208 square feet on a 6,399 square foot lot in the Mission Area Special Design District is 79% of the maximum floor to lot area ratio. So we're going to have minutes from the previous meeting before we start our presentation. We apologize for being 6 minutes late.
All right, that's close enough. Pretty close.
So, Mr. Mahan, if you could read the minutes.
Okay, let's see. Okay, item number 1 of the motion, and continue indefinitely with the full board with these comments. Provide a partial landscape plan for the area of the proposed driveway and parking. Restudy the front elevation for street presence and architectural character. Study the windows for a cohesive style. Study the carport roof and its connection to the existing structure. Retain the existing sandstone retaining walls. Incorporate retain the existing sandstone retain. You want me to read those over again? I think I will. So it's provide a partial landscape plan for the area of the proposed driveway and carport. Restudy the front elevation for street presence and architectural character. Number 3 is study the windows for a cohesive style. Number 4 is study the carport roof and its connection to the existing structure. And number 5 is retain the existing sandstone retaining walls, incorporate sandstone veneer where feasible.
Thank you.
Okay.
Introduce yourself.
Yeah, my name's Tony Zcase. I'm the designer on the project. This is Cynthia Napier, the owner.
Welcome.
I think we've addressed most of those comments. We have kind of a difficulty getting a landscape plan together for you, but I went ahead and moved it along, so I think I've done everything else that you asked for. Let's look at the site plan. Hasn't really changed. I'm sorry, yeah. Before we were going to come out with this front wall out to here, which made this kind of a large gable element. I don't think anybody liked that, so I went ahead and reduced that. And what that does for us is when we reduce the width, we reduce the height as well. And there's a problem with the neighbor over here talking about the views that we're going to, the old design is going to impede your views somewhat. And so I think we've addressed that. We've lowered that whole element down. And there was some concern about there's a little gable element here at the entry, the main entry to the house. When we extend the house out 6 feet, that gable element is centered on the existing house. When we come out 6 feet, it's not centered and it looks awkward. So, what I'd like to do is move the whole entry to the main house centered on this wall here, and you'll see on the elevation that that's a huge improvement over what we had before. No
other site plan changes?
No. So we've actually reduced the square footage of the whole thing by
This is
about
gone
60.
now? That
Well, this is still there, but this addition was out to here somewhere. So we've taken it back to there, and we kept the front entry facing the street, which I think adds a little charm to the house. I think the word that we used last time was cutesiness, if anyone recalls.
That was Paul's word. I think.
Right. That's a technical term. So again, we brought this wall back. This wall used to be out here somewhere, which made this gable rather large, and it was kind of overwhelming. So now we have a nice street presence. We keep this little entry element. Now it's centered between these two, the outside railing and this wall, and we've added a little gable. We're going to basically replicate what was here. This entry used to be over here somewhere, and we're going to kind of replicate that. And I think it's a nice little detail, kind of real old style from its original construction.
Okay.
Again, you can see. So here it is. Here this gable used to be up above this peak, and again, I think by reducing that we mitigate the problem of the view corridor that somebody's complaining about. And then again, here's this little gable element for the entry, and this actually projects towards you by about 3 feet or so. There's a little overhang here, so we want to keep that same element to that street presence there. Another thing we did was we had a shed roof over this carport, and I like that suggestion. We just turned the gable, put the ridge up here, and so now you can see it looks a little nicer from the side and from the front. And then I've introduced some sandstone here to match the existing chimney. Introduce some sandstone here to give it a little more base here. And then this window was a little problematic before. We had a little arched window there. So this window we're going to try and recycle from. There's actually a window. This window occurs at the front of the house now. We're just going to recycle it and place it at this at the front there.
Okay.
Right. And I think that's
Okay,
it, right?
I think that's a good presentation. Tony, are there any staff comments? I know we have some public comment coming. Okay, so at this point I'd like to open up public comment. I have 2 slips for speakers, and I don't know if there's any particular order. Vince Golson, if you could come up. And just take a seat here. All right. You have to be on mic, that's why we...
I have to be on mic, okay. Hi, Mike.
And just state your name and...
my name is Vince Golson. I live at 2021 Cleveland, basically across the street. I wasn't going to comment on this particular thing, but when we were talking about the gable that's at the front of the house you were just mentioning, I don't see why that couldn't be a hip roof. That would allow my neighbor a full view out their windows. Whereas a gable roof basically comes out, no matter, if you lower that much, it will be lowered a couple of feet, but that won't make the difference. The difference will be basically in that if it was a hip roof, then it would come down, in like the existing roof is now.
Okay.
And also, as far as the floor plan is concerned,
if we're going to be pointing, we probably should point over here because it's on television.
Okay.
Or just general comment about it.
All right, I just have a... May I? Thank you. I've been a general contractor for 30 years, so I've seen plans before. The family room, I've never seen a full bath on a family room and call it a family room. Just my own observation. When you have a powder room around the corner from the family room, so effectively you have this extra bathroom here that's supposed to be a non-bedroom. I just have issues with that. I can see things happening with that very easily. Also, under here, this has been used as a residence, this under this basement And I'd like to make sure that that isn't turned back into a usable studio apartment.
Okay.
With a bathroom, because that water heater, there's a shower there now.
I understand.
Let's see.
That shower's been removed.
That has? Okay, well,
Yeah.
as long as it stays removed, I'll be happy. The other thing is, since your original meeting, the night of the original meeting, we took a picture of lights that were turned on at this residence, I think, as a nuisance for the neighborhood. I wasn't here, but yet this affects me greatly. It comes into my bedroom, and I'd like to show you.
Do you have a copy of this, or is it just on the on the camera?
Yes. And I got it. Here it is right here. That's one side of the house.
I don't know if he's going to even try to.
But it just basically means that our neighbor's house and my bedroom are totally lit up all night long.
Okay.
And we just...
That's exterior lighting you're talking about.
That's exterior lighting.
Exterior lighting.
And we'd just like to make sure that there's a condition put in that the lighting on this project will conform to the city and will be hooded and not try to be a nuisance to the neighborhood.
Those are part of our guidelines, so we'll make sure we do.
That would be
those.
great. I
Okay.
appreciate that.
All right. Any other comments?
No, other than the fact that I really don't think this is a family room with a bathroom on it. I was hoping to see this open up into this room and actually make this a movable space, and all of a sudden we have all these bathrooms here. When we have a powder room here, and if you walk right around the corner, you're into a full bath.
I understand.
I can see a lot of cars. We have a very small street.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So the next speaker will be Tom Carlson. Is there any other speakers? I only have 2 slips. Okay.
I didn't receive notice about this hearing until actually late Friday evening. The notice wasn't mailed until Thursday, so I was only able to look at the plans very quickly today. And in looking at them, I had not noticed that they brought that gable on the part sticking out down a little bit, and I very much appreciate that effort. I don't believe that that is going to save our views, and I'm worried about that part of the building sticking out
Are you over
toward
here?
the street. We are. Yeah, that's our house right there.
This is the road. This is the driveway that used to come
Right,
back.
we are over here.
You're on this side here.
And is this still coming out 8 feet?
I think it's 6 feet. Is that right?
It's like 8 foot.
8
8
foot
foot
6.
ish. Yeah, but then you
Yeah.
step back.
Oh, right.
You're about
Mhm.
8 feet.
I mean, our concerns are really two. One is that we think with the addition, this becomes a structure that is simply too massive and taking up too much space on the lot. With the portion that goes out forward to the street, I think it really becomes intrusive and imposing. I think it's going to dominate the street in a way that is really not very appealing. And we expressed these same concerns at the last hearing. I just don't think this is a structure that's going to be consistent with the more modest scale of the surrounding homes in the area. Related to that question of size, the mass of the thing, I mean, why all this mass? And that relates to my concerns about the use of the property, which seems to me it's going to be incompatible with the neighborhood. The owner has not ever lived in the house. It has always been used as a rental property, and it has really been used and actually advertised as a multi-unit rental property with a separate studio apartment. It is true. I can go back and find the advertisement in the news press. I didn't have time to do that because I didn't hear about this hearing until Friday evening. But especially in light of all of these bathrooms, full bathroom, 4 full bathrooms, 5 if a full bathroom is reinstalled down in that basement area, 2 half bathrooms in all of this. I see here the creation of what is in effect a multi-unit rental property. If you look at the layout, each area of the room, each room now expanded to be more livable. has its own entryway and exit way so that people can stay away from one another. Each has its own full bathroom. I don't think that this is a single-family home. I think this is a multi-unit rental property pretending to be a single-family home. And it's completely inconsistent with the other homes in the neighborhood. Some 4, 5 bathrooms in a home of this size. I don't think there's any house anywhere nearby in the neighborhood that comes close to having that many bathrooms. I don't think a single-family home of this size has any reason to have this many bathrooms. And
We
this
understand your
concern is based on the history and the history of the rental of the house to multiple parties in and out, not necessarily connected to one another in any familial way, has brought noise, and it has brought traffic, and it has brought parking problems, and the street cannot sustain that. It's inconsistent with the street. It's a disturbance to the street, to its peace, its tranquility. It's a very nice place, this street. It's quiet, and I think that this is going to be a real threat to all of that. And so these are the reasons for our opposition.
Thank you. We understand your concerns.
Thank you very much.
For this person. Is this your house here? Next door up here?
Yeah,
this is our house?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
So at this point, I will close public comment and bring it back to the board for their questions. Oh, no, okay. We'll reopen public comment. Thank you. And this is Ken Newton. Kent. I'm sorry?
Yes.
Hi, Kent. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm equally concerned with the size of the project and how they're going to, what it's going to look like in the neighborhood and how it fits in with the neighborhood, and certainly with the intended use as it's been shown before, prior, and the impact in parking on the street. It's, as they've had before, many tenants in there, and it's been a real impact on the parking.
So your concerns are generally the same as the rest of the speakers?
Yeah,
okay.
absolutely.
Okay. Well, thank you for coming.
And the design, the way it looks.
You have to fill out a form if you're or you have to come back up. There's no way we can hear you from back there.
Okay. Yes, I was. I just...
And your name again?
Vince Golson.
Vince, okay.
I just wanted to point out that, as I see it now, there are 9 children on this street that are under 10 years old. That's 5 of these kids, or their address is actually on Emerson, but their garage and their play area is in back of the house. So in this short block, there are 10 kids under 10 years old. No, excuse me, 7 kids under 10 years old. Did I say that, or 9 kids? Say there's 3, 5. It's going to be a new one. So basically, there's at least 10 little kids on this neighborhood. If we get a lot of traffic in it, it's a bad thing.
Okay. I think we understand your concerns.
Right.
Thank you. So I'm going to close public comment. Totally. And bring it back to the board for their questions.
I have a question for staff. Tony, this is a this R2 zone, so this could be a duplex, right?
The zone allows a duplex. I don't, I haven't evaluated it for lot area, et cetera, and parking. It would have to have 4 parking spaces, et cetera. So
Theoretically, there could be some kind of a duplex on this property,
yeah.
in R2 zone.
Any other questions?
I'd like to ask the obvious question of the applicant. Are you intending to live in this home?
Yeah, my driver's license, I would have already been there had all this stuff not happened with the loan
They're
situation.
doing
Yeah.
a big interior remodel right now.
Yeah.
The place all
But my
gutted.
driver's license already has that address on it. And I've owned the house since 2002, I think. I ran into one person, and she had 5 kids, 3 of them that lived at the house. And one teenage son, I think that, she had 5 kids. It's the only person I've ever leased it to, was one woman with 5 kids.
And do you intend to rent out portions of this
No,
place?
not at all. No, just not at all.
Just checking.
Okay. Any other questions? I have a question. Has the zoning person reviewed the plans for conformance with the zoning?
Yes, I was just looking at the preliminary plan check because I didn't do this one, but for residential density, they said it was okay. They check for interior, that it's all, you can go
the
all through the
configurations.
house, through the interior. It's not partitioned off into separate areas.
Okay. Any additional questions? We'll move to comments. We got to have some comments.
I'll move to some comments.
First, I'd like to speak towards the gable that's pointing out towards the street. I actually think that it's compatible. I disagree with the public on a hip roof. Even though I'm a fan of hip roofs, this particular building in the architecture is a series of gable roofs, and there are no hip roofs on it. And the gable coming out gives it some character that is needed to the relief of this building because of its linearity. So I believe that the architectural protrusion on this is necessary. I appreciate the use of stone on it, and I think that's a positive direction. I do see in the photographs that you have some lighting on the side of the property, but I'm assuming that when this, I don't see that there's going to be any lights on the elevations, on the west elevations, and I'm assuming that there will no longer be lighting on that side of the building.
Yeah, we don't need any lighting over there.
Seeing how the garage is going to be removed from that portion and the driveway. So in general, I'm in support of the project.
Yeah, it's at the front, at where our doors are.
Yeah.
But we could.
In the back, yeah. Any other comments?
I'll follow up on it, and I agree with Ray on this. I think the architecture has improved considerably, and I do not believe that the gable will block the neighbor to the west. Given how when you can see the house.
Yeah, they're well above us.
Elevated into
Here,
Yeah.
you can. There's their windows up there, and here's this house down here. So I think that's. I think that will be okay, and I do agree that the lighting on the house has to be carefully considered. Both the fixtures and the location should only be at doors. We shouldn't have any light spilling across the property lines, etc. But it would be nice if the stone that you've used here was picked up on this.
Yeah, I thought of doing that.
You know,
We could do that.
this stucco. Since you have stone here, stucco is a little bit inconsistent, and it would be nice to go ahead and continue that.
Okay.
Wrapping it around here, maybe a little ways. It doesn't have to go all the way back, but maybe around and let it peter out there
Okay.
or something. I think that. I find the house acceptable, and I will point out to the public and also to members on the board that it is perfectly appropriate to rent out rooms in your house if you want to. It's just the issue is a kitchen. Now this is in an R2 zone, and if everything else worked out, it actually could be a duplex and have two kitchens and be two separate units. So. In terms of the density, at least the zoning would permit that, and this doesn't apparently is not what is being proposed here. So I think that that's acceptable, and I think this I'll be able to support a preliminary approval.
Comments?
I agree with what's been said thus far.
At 79% of the maximum FAR, it doesn't require any kind of a 20 closest homes or even 10 closest homes. But I'm just wondering if we could be provided, whether this comes back to us or goes to consent, if we could maybe just revisit that particular issue, just to make sure that we're not
No, we did
bigger than need be. And then my other comment has to do with the carport in terms of quality construction and with our guidelines. I was wondering if it might be considered to enclose that far side of the carport, just because I think it looks a little tacky for the neighborhood.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I want to point out that in the R2 zone of our guidelines are guidelines and not standards. Isn't that true, Tony? In the R2 zone?
Just with regard to the FAR.
What?
Just with regard to the maximum FAR, that's
With
a
regard to
guideline.
the maximum FAR.
Yes.
You still need to carefully evaluate in terms of whether the size is indeed compatible.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what we review the projects for on a case-by-case basis. I'm actually looking for the FAR that's listed on the agenda is 79%.
And what do I have? Oh, because I changed, we
It's actually
reduced
less,
it a
I
little
think.
bit.
It's even less
Yeah,
than what's on the
yeah.
agenda. That's what I was getting.
Yeah, reduced it a little bit, but
But there was not a recalculation.
right, yeah.
It's
I
just-
think that's
it's a little
correct.
less.
Somebody penciled
Okay.
that in.
Maybe be down to 75%.
Yeah. And again,
No.
Tony, did you find any of the 20 closest home or any compatible neighborhood study or anything in our
We delivered the letters.
the letters?
20 closest homes
Oh, okay.
notices.
That's a different.
So-
different
Oh, okay. Sorry.
No, I don't think we have any information on the neighboring
The data,
FAR.
And again, it's technically not required at all because it's considerably less than 85 even. So
But
it's
Mr. Chair, excuse me, Bernie is right, though. I mean, the main thing you have to get to is the finding of
Correct.
compatibility of size, and the FAR and percentage of FAR is just a tool
Correct.
to get to that finding.
But I was just getting to the point, it really wasn't a requirement. Unless,
Mr. Chair, I want to point out something else. The side of the carport now is only 3 feet from the property line, and on the site plan, and the carport is 18 feet wide, which is acceptable for a carport, but you can't close that side in because the garage doors, the car doors won't open up.
I think she was talking about the back, right?
or the top gable part.
Along here?
Yeah, she's talking about the side right
Oh, yeah,
there.
we
You see,
wouldn't have
that
enough
won't
room.
work. You can't do that. So that's, the whole key to a carport is they can be narrower because the
Right.
doors swing out and swing into the
Yeah, we
the
tried to
setback.
fit a garage in there. It wouldn't
They
work.
don't have room for a typical 20, I would agree with you if we could have a real garage with a garage door, that would be better, but it won't fit in.
I have a couple questions and or comments. The stucco colors that are going to be in the new areas, are they matching?
gonna
exact-
match.
The roof is going to match existing.
Yeah.
The windows and doors are going to match the existing
Correct. Mhm.
colors.
Yeah.
Railings are going to match.
Mhm.
When we have elements of wood, they're going to match the trim elements that are already on the
Correct.
building.
That's our intent.
Okay, so we don't necessarily need to see a color board for the preliminary approval because it's just matching the existing colors. So at this point, I'd love to entertain a motion. If anybody is willing to make one.
Well, may I just make a suggestion to whoever the motion maker is, that we make sure that we add something about any lighting on the exterior
Absolutely.
of the house.
Okay.
And we don't have the landscaping yet in the area where the driveway was removed and the garage was removed. So if this is going to be a motion for preliminary approval, it would have to only be for the architecture.
Understandable.
And the landscaping would have to come back.
Okay.
Well, I would make a motion for preliminary approval of the architecture as a basis for working drawings as submitted with the addition of stone at the, whatever we want to call this other
Here, yeah.
balcony here,
Yep.
this balcony, which we'll call the southeast balcony, right?
Okay.
Stone on the southeast balcony, rounding the corner at least back to the carport,
Okay.
and that the findings, the neighborhood findings, that the size, bulk, and scale is appropriate to the neighborhood, and the architecture is appropriate to the neighborhood, and that the details, materials, and quality of construction will be of highest quality.
Okay.
Is there a second to that motion?
I second that.
Discussion?
And that the landscaping will be return to the board when you're ready to do that. This is just a preliminary approval for architecture.
Okay, gotcha.
Under discussion?
Discussion.
Yes, furthermore, that the lighting is to adhere to the city guidelines about downward lighting.
Yes.
And they are to be at door exits and not to be at the sides of the building.
Bring in a cut sheet.
Right.
Right.
We'll need
Okay.
cut sheets of the light fixtures
Sure.
for finals.
Bernie?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just backtracking momentarily. Tony, when they figure out the FAR, is this one of those where the basement had a reduction?
You can ask the
I can answer that.
architect.
Yeah,
He did the
we took
calculation.
the basement into account.
Now, that makes me much suspicious of how I would really like to see some more
Bernie, let's get a
numbers.
clarification. He said it took it into account, but did you count it full or was
Yeah,
it?
we counted it full.
So it's
Right.
full?
Yeah.
There was no reduction from the basement?
Right, right.
Okay. So it's even more square footage underground, so it's less.
even less.
Less visual. Okay, so everybody's heard the motion? We ready to vote? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? We have an approved project, you have a 10-day appeal period.
Thank you.
10-day appeal period to, we should thank the public for coming in.
Yeah, thank the public for coming, and this is going to go to consent for architecture and
Yes.
for preliminary, and for landscape.
Landscape, I think landscape can come back to the full board. We didn't get a preliminary approval of landscaping because we
Correct.
haven't seen anything.
Correct, so did we make them, was it included in the motion?
It was not, it was included, it was not, it was mentioned in the motion that we haven't seen any landscaping.
Okay.
We haven't seen anything.
So do we need to revise our motion or just
No.
advise the applicant to come back for a preliminary approval
The
for
motion,
landscape?
the motion states that landscaping wasn't reviewed today and will have to come back for a preliminary approval at some later date.
Okay.
They had a
It's got
landscape plan
lots of
drawn up for a
landscaping there.
previous project. But,
It's already installed. Yeah.
I mean, this is for the former project, but this is, I don't know if this is appropriate to show you at this point.
I don't think it is.
Okay.
What, landscaping?
This isn't even this project right now.
Right, right. Yeah.
But this
Gotta
is
be-
what this was
gotta be something you
But it has to
submitted to
coordinate
staff.
with what the drawings show now.
Right, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
Yeah, we want to see landscaping.
current stuff.
Yeah, I can see one thing. I mean, there's quite a bit of paving on this plan here as opposed to what's over here. You might even think about that.
Okay. Well, good. At least that's in direction. Thanks for the comment.
So with that, we are at the end of our agenda. We'd like to, I thought we did vote.
We did vote.
We did vote. Well, we passed it. Okay.
Thanks, Gary.
10-day appeal period.
Yes, we
And
announced
that's the
that.
last item on our agenda, so good night.
These are the dreams